This is the 8-6 day 1 notes. Today we're going to be factoring with a number in front of the x to the second. So now when we have an equation like 3x squared plus 9x minus 12, we're going to have a letter for a, the number in front of the x squared, a number for b, the one in front of the x, and a number at the end, the one that's for c. So this is going to start with the same large X as before. Now, our first step, though, is to multiply A and C. That's the first and the last number. So we're going to start by multiplying 3 and negative 12 in this example. Then I'm going to put that number at the top of the X, and the middle number, the B that I didn't multiply, still goes on the bottom. I want to find the factors that multiply to the top and add to the bottom, just like before. Now here is where it really changes. Using the numbers you found, we're going to use it to split the equation in half. Now we start with an equation that's 3 parts. You can't split an equation that's 3 parts in half. So I have to make it 4 parts so I can split it in half and have 2 on one side and 2 on the other. And like I said, I'll show you an example of this in a second. Number 4, we have to find what can be taken out of each side. This is what the opposite of distribution is. We did this a couple days ago. And then number 5, what's left behind, it should be the same. Again, I'm going to show you an example of this. And number 6, put parentheses around it, and you're done. So 6 steps, and we're going to go through these 2 problems together. So, step 1, when I have 5x squared plus 11x plus 2, step 1 is to multiply A and C. So remember, A is the first letter, B is the second letter, C is the last letter. So if I multiply A and C, I have 5 times 2 in this problem, which gives me 10. So put 10 at the top. Then the B goes at the bottom still. So now I'm trying to find factors that multiply to 10 and add to 11. So that's going to be a positive 10 and a positive 1. 10 times 1 equals 10. 10 plus 1 equals 11. Okay? So now, that was step 2. Step 3, using the numbers you found, split the equation in half. So I have to split this middle guy into 2 parts. So I'm still going to have 5x squared. Now, instead of 11x, I'm going to have plus 10 x's plus 1x. So if I add these 2 together, I still have 11 x's, but I use the numbers that I found here to split it in 2 different parts. So the 10 with the x goes on the left side, and the 1 with the x goes on the right side. And then I add the 2 at the end. So now I can have 4 parts here, so I can split this in half. Before with 3 parts, I couldn't split it in half. There was no equal splitting. So then I go to step 4. What can be taken out of each side? So I cover up this side and I look at just the left side. What can come out of 5 and 10? So what number goes into 5 and 10? It's going to be 5. Letter-wise, I have x squared and x. So I can take out an x to the first because that's my lowest exponent. Then I use parentheses and I say, okay, what's left behind? What's 5 divided by 5? 1. What's 10 divided by 5? 2. If I had x to the second and I took 1 away, that leaves me with just x. If I had x to the first and I took 1 away, that doesn't leave me any x's at all on this 2. So that's this left side. 5x, parentheses, 1x plus 2. On this side, I take a look. What goes into 1 and 2? The biggest number possible would be a 1. What goes into x and no x's? That would be no x's. So then I write what's left. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. I didn't take any x's out, so I still have this x here. 2 divided by 1 is 2. So now I have 2 parentheses, 1 on the left side, 1 on the right side. That's what's left behind, is the stuff in the parentheses. Now, it should be the same. So in the parentheses, are they identical? 1x plus 2 is on the left, 1x plus 2 is on the right. That is perfect. That's what I want. Okay, this is your big check. If you don't have parentheses at this step that are the same, you did something wrong. Now, I'm going to have my final 2 parentheses. And the first one's going to be everything that's on the outside. So in this step, everything that was on the outside of the parentheses. So, for example, I had 5x on the left side, and I had a positive 1 on the right side. So 5x plus 1 goes in one parenthesis. Then I want to have a parenthesis that had the exact same inside. So that's why it's important that they match, because you're just going to put them all into one. So the inside that matched was 1x plus 2, so that goes into the second parenthesis. And that's your final answer. So you're going to have one parenthesis with 5x plus 1, and a second parenthesis with 1x plus 2. And then you're done. So we're going to go through that a little bit faster for example 2. You're going to start with the x. You're going to multiply a times c, and that's going to go on the top. So 3 times negative 15 is negative 45. The middle number still goes at the bottom. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 45. So one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative, but add to a positive 4. Okay? So if I do this, it should be a positive 9 and a negative 5. Because 9 times negative 5 is negative 45. 9 plus negative 5 is a positive 4. So I use these two factors to split this one in the middle. So instead of 4x here, I'll have 9x for the left side and negative 5x for the right side. Everything else just drops down. So 3x squared plus, and then minus 15. And I get to split this equation down the middle now. Okay, now I cover up one side and I try and take out as much as I can. So what's the biggest number that goes into 3 and 9? 3. What can I take out of x squared and x? It's just going to be an x. And then what's left behind? 3 divided by 3 is 1. If I had x to the second and I took out an x, I'm left with 1 behind. Plus, what's 9 divided by 3? 3. If I had an x here and I took it out, I don't have it anymore. Then looking at this side, I have negative 5 and negative 15. So I'm going to take out a negative 5 from both of those. I have an x and no numbers here, so I cannot take out any numbers. So what's left behind? Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1. The x gets to stay. Negative 15 divided by negative 5 is actually positive 3. Negative divided by negative makes it positive. So now this is the row that I check everything. In my parentheses, I have 1x plus 3 over here, and I have 1x plus 3 over here. It does match, so I'm good to do my last two parentheses. So again, first one's going to be the outside stuff. So outside of these two parentheses was a positive 3x, and then a negative 5, so 3x minus 5. And then the same stuff was 1x plus 3, and that was on both of the insides. So that is my final answer, 3x minus 5 and 1x plus 3. Go ahead and pause the video and do these next two problems. When you're finished with these two problems, go ahead and start the video again to see if you're right. So for this first one, you should have started out with an x. You multiply the first and the last, and you get 30, and then 13 goes on the bottom. Your factors are going to be 10 and 3. You use that 10 and 3 to split the middle x. Everything else stays the same. Then you try and take out as much as you can. So out of 6 and 10 comes 2. Out of x squared and x comes x. That leaves you with 3x plus 5. Out of 3 and 5, you can only take a 1. No x's can come out, so that leaves you with 3x plus 5. So I'm checking 3x plus 5, 3x plus 5, all good. So my first parenthesis is going to have 2x plus 1 for the outside stuff. My second parenthesis is going to be 3x plus 5 for the inside stuff. That's my final answer. This next one, number 2, if you haven't gotten this far, please pause. I'm going to start with 10 times negative 14, which is negative 140. The 31 is going to go down here. The two numbers that multiply to negative 40 but add to 31 is positive 35 and negative 4. I'm going to use these two numbers to split this one. So it's going to be 35x and negative 4x. And then I get to split it down the middle. The front half stays the same and the back half stays the same. So now I get to take out what I can. So what goes into 10 and 35? That's going to be a 5. What goes into x squared and x is x. 10 divided by 5 is 2. I have an x left over. Plus 35 divided by 5 is 7. I took the x out, so I don't have any more x's. Then I take a look at the next side. Negative 4 and negative 14. I can take a negative 2 out of both. I can't take any letters out. So then I start dividing. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. I have the x left behind. Negative 14 divided by negative 2 is positive 7. At this point, I can see that my two parentheses are the same. So I can go ahead and write my final answer, which is 5x minus 2 for the outsides and 2x plus 7 for the insides that matched.